Thank you for joining tonight on Group Therapy Podcast. Today we have, legitimately, I love this band, but we have the lead singer, David Alvin, from the band White Trash. Tell us about yourself, David.
Well, I'm a hardworking young lad who 30-something years ago was on MTV with Apple Pie. I might have slept with some of your kids' mothers back in the day, so sorry about that. Now I'm just a regular old guy yelling at clouds.
I'm not gonna lie. I got lucky. I found the White Trash album cassette. I'm gonna specify that.
That's making a comeback.
Yeah. And so is vinyl, but I've got vinyl, I've got cassettes. The cassette is literally in a box tucked away, but I do have my CD. This I got a couple years later. Yes, I've got.
Those are hard to find.
Yeah, and I had your second album, and somewhere along the line, in a move or something, it's missing. So I don't know what the hell happened there. But I used to be friends with the manager at a record town, which for those that don't know became FYE. And he's like, hey, he goes, have you heard of this band? And this is before you were on MTV. This is like maybe.
Oh, really?
God, I want to say about a month, maybe ish. But he's like, hey, you got to check this out. And I was like, all right, because I always trusted his judgment because he knew what I listened to. And I got that cassette, and I'm like, man, this is great. I put on my Walkman, and I was, and listening to it. I put it in my car, my truck at the time, and it's like, man, I love this. And then the video hit. And then it was like, holy crap, these guys are huge, man. These guys are going to be big. And I loved this album.
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days when it was legitimately. I had my truck tape deck, so I'd put it in my truck and listen to it. And you'd have to eject it, flip it over, and put it back in.
We need the auto reverse. You need the deck with the auto reverse.
Yeah, I had a. This is gonna take. I had an '81 Chevy Love truck, so this thing was old when I got it.
Cool.
And listen to this album on repeat all the time. And then, like I said, you blew up on MTV. I the one thing I got to ask, because I can't remember if I'm remembering correctly, was it the Crawl? Wasn't that the intro to a TV show? Didn't you do it?
Jon Stewart.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And
yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, I'm like legitimately looking up. I'm like, I remember them having a song that was an intro to something. And then I was like, was it Jon Stewart? Yeah, Jon Stewart. And man, it was a fun band. You guys.
Yes, lots of fun.
I don't know, because what you see and then what you actually experience with being in the band, you guys legit, you look like you were having a blast. I've seen concert footage and stuff. And for those who don't know, it was a metal band that had a brass section. And was it Badass Brass, I think?
Yeah, the Badass Brass.
That I remember that is insane.
On the second album was the Half-Ass Brass because we didn't have all the guys.
And it was funny because I found you on Facebook, and I had posted, because I think I posted one time that I didn't understand. I always thought if you were like maybe 5 to 6 years too early, because
the timing was way off for us. That's a common theme. With White Trash, we're always in the right place at the wrong time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the because right around the time you guys kind of disappeared, that's when all that music hit. That's when the rock with the brass section hit. And I was like, man,
Yep.
where are these guys at? And then then of course, the internet started getting bigger. And then I found out that you guys unfortunately broke up for a while.
Yeah, I mean, there's a long, winding road with this band. So the first band, go ahead. You want me to start with the first band? Yeah. So, we all were friends. Like, we lived across the street from each other, literally, in Fresh Meadows, Queens, New York, And Aaron and Ethan lived across the street, and the original drummer was Buzz, which was one of the songs, Buzz. But he didn't play on the album, but he was the original guy, Andy Lang, and he lived around the corner from me. So, I mean, literally one guy here, two guys there, me in the middle. So, we played on and off. Our first time we really played together was at Aaron's bar mitzvah. So he was 13. There's a video on YouTube of it somewhere too. It's we're doing like Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight, I think. But so we grew up together. Went to school together, and Andy, the original drummer, wound up moving on and doing other things. So when we were in high school, Aaron's classmate was Mike Calderella. I actually had a class with him too. He became the drummer. The horn players were in band class with Aaron. So this was, the Queen's experience. Like, we didn't go any further than Flushing. Like, that was it. Because otherwise our moms had to take us too far away. We couldn't make rehearsals. So that's the original crew. And like you said, it was just about partying hard in those days. And that's, the album cover was supposed to be like the artwork for Animal House. And that was sort of like how I was living my life, just, partying hard. And luckily I had these guys who are awesome musicians to make me look a little more talented than I was in those days. And I just was like the MC, and that's how it all got started.
Yeah, it's funny because I always thought it was. I don't want to sound bad here. I always thought your band seemed like you happen to have friends that were the band geeks in high school, and so you had a band, and you were like, "Hey, my buddies over here are man, they play. They want to be in the band too." And
it is sort of like that, I guess.
But and you always had your gimmick was you always wore your suits with the tie and the whole 9 yards, and I thought that was sorry, my wife was texting me. Sorry, give me a pause.
Oh, that's okay.
But you guys had something, like I said, just fuzz too early. You had the suits, you had the brass section, you had the metal, and now did you have, like, because you said you played the bar mitzvah and you played metal, you played Judas Priest.
Yeah.
Was Judas Priest like your break, like the band you found that made you want to be in a band, or was it just?
That was definitely, when I was growing up, like I like disco stuff, like, I mean, I started, first records I had were like Richard Pryor and Cheech and Chong albums. I had comedy records, but the first actual record, that I had was Jimi Hendrix Axis Bold as Love. I'm like a huge Hendrix fan. And the first song I remember hearing as a kid is Purple Haze on the radio. I'm just thinking that was the coolest thing, like just the tone of his voice and the sounds and everything. And my uncle used to babysit me when I was a kid, and he was into like Cream and Hendrix and early Zeppelin and a lot of electric blues stuff. So he was a big influence, on me and what I started to listen to, right? So grew up with that, started listening to comedy records, and then, disco, Saturday Night Fever, Bee Gees, all that stuff. And then I remember being in a car with my mom driving somewhere, and You Got Another Thing Coming came on the radio. So that was like, I think, the song that made me go, whoa, like, whoa, that's cool. And then, God help me after that. But so yeah, we started out as like a lot of guys did in those days. We were listening to Priest and Maiden, Van Halen, and then later Motley Crue was the entrance into all of that stuff, Wasp, and but yeah, I mean, I listened to everything, Saxon, you name it back then. The good old, before all the ballads came in and everything got all sappy and a little too glammy. It was like, I was a metalhead in high school. I was the metalhead, with the guys who hung out back of the cafeteria smoking cigarettes with the real cheesy long hair and, the feathered hair and everything. So we all listened to that, and we were in a couple of bands. We were in a band called Wired. Before it was White Trash. Before that, it was Blade. And it was always me, Ethan, and Aaron. And the drummer changed a lot, And then we started doing White Trash. We didn't have horns at this point. We were still, but we were writing our own stuff, And we wound up getting Mike. And we always put a premium on trying to be like original, try to do something different, with the stage show. Again, the suits, I got that because I liked all the blues guys. I thought it was cool to wear the suit. The horns came from that too, like Albert King used a lot of horns. I was like those Stax records where he had like, it was like his backing band was Booker T and the MGs basically. So yeah. That stuff still is amazing sonically and musically and everything. So I thought that would be cool, that sort of kind of image, but it was hard to do because we didn't know horn players at first. So we started off, we had like, we got some girls to be like backup singers, which Motley Crue did later on, but they were like cute girls, but they really couldn't sing. And they just got like drunk at the show, like girl drunk, and they just like were falling down, and we were like, all right, well, that's cool, but that didn't work so good. They were called the Love Dogs. So it was White Trash and the Love Dogs. And then, we were talking about, and then, I started trying to learn harmonica and kind of, Aerosmith it up and stuff. And then, we were all into the Blues Brothers movie and all that. And we started talking about the horns, and Aaron was like, well, I there's these guys I play with in high school band class, I could ask them if they want to do it. So he asked them, and they were like, sure, why not? And they jumped in, and that really clicked, it was kind of a gimmick in the beginning, but we got more into the arrangements as we went along. And that really just clicked everything into gear because it was something that really made us stand out from the other bands, that like nobody had a horn section, right? Like, people played harmonica, maybe somebody had their girlfriend singing backup vocals, but nobody had a full horn section. So that really, helped us make our mark and kind of get something going. Yeah, because that horn part in the bit where that is so damn catchy. That is just that hooks you, and you're just like, all right, I'm in for the rest of the song. So that's the horn part that got the party started. I'm sorry, you broke up there. Yeah, I think I got you back there. I got you now. Yep. I think like I said, I think there's a storm coming in. I think it might be a little bit of a shorter interview, unfortunately. Hopefully. No, that's okay. Whatever works. Yeah. It's all good. Now, with being White Trash and going out and touring, and you were at the cusp of the quote unquote hair metal, the beginning of grunge, and like the thrash metal era, and then there's just you, and you probably got put on some weird tours, because Yeah, well, so it was a kind of a weird thing because we came up through, the metal scene,
Mm-hmm.
but by the time we had kind of put together the material with the horns, we had changed and evolved musically to where we really weren't hair metal anymore. I mean, we were like, I was still a pretty young guy at that time. I was still a poser with the suit and everything. So I had that look, and I had the mic stand with the made out of beer cans, and just gimmicks up the wazoo. I was like, nothing could be normal. Like, you know what I mean? We had to put our stamp on everything, which I still love that idea. But when you're trying to be that unique and that different, it's very hard to put you into it like a specific category. So for some reason, we were in this hair metal because it was big at the time, and we kind of looked like that. And we had, Ethan was like could shred with the best of them. So we had like, the components to be like a major hair metal band, but we brought in all this funk stuff. Aaron was a great funk player. Aaron and Mike were like more into like Chili Peppers and stuff like that, whereas me and Ethan, I think, were more Aerosmith at that, Guns N' Roses at that time, right? And so we, it formed like a really cool marriage of ideas, but because it didn't like just fit here. Like, we weren't doing the power ballads that were starting to like dominate, and we were somewhere in the middle, or different than us, but they were not strictly categorized. You had Fishbone, so there was stuff going on in those days, but it was hard. We had to tour on our own a lot because we didn't really fit with a lot of acts, and then we play with other acts and we get into fights with them and stuff. So it was a little wild.
Yeah, it's funny because watching all these bands back in the early '90s into the 2000s when they just didn't know where to put people, and so there was these weird tours, and that's what I kind of because one of my favorite ones was I saw the Bloodhound Gang open for Gwar, so
there you go.
That's about as different as you can get, but like I said, you guys, very, very different style from what was going on at the time, but very much in the party, have fun genre of music. And, because you weren't, like I said, you weren't hair metal at all. There was vastly different. And, it was funny because I was listening to it recently, and somebody was like, "Man, what do you listen to?" I was like, "I listen to White Trash," and they're like, "Is that a hair band?" I was like, "That's listen to it. Just listen to the CD and tell me."
But that's what it is for us. That's always been the stumbling block, because when you have radio, when you have record companies, when you have promotion, it's much easier. So like our management, they came up with the tagline, "4 college dropouts and a horn section." That was like, except we, guys had gone to college. It was, it wasn't really that, but, they were trying to figure out like, well, how do we market this? You know what I mean? And part of, our management at the time was Q Prime, that did Metallica and Def Leppard and Chili Peppers and Queensryche at the time. And, they've done everybody, like they're major management company, but they really kind of at a certain point were like pushing really, like to just go more straight up rock. Cause I think that they didn't know what to do with us really. You know what I mean? Like, and so it presented a lot of problems, even though we were, proud of what we feel like we invented, what I mean? And it did influence other stuff. And, obviously we didn't come up with horns or hard rock and horns, but, I still feel it's a unique album. And it was just, we came at it at a time that was kind of the end of one scene. And then by the time the second album came out, grunge had hit, and, the party band thing really wasn't in vogue anymore. And because we were kind of part of that hair metal scene, we kind of got fairly like unfairly dismissed, like, oh, these poser guys, which we did look like that. But my point is, the guys really could play, all of them. It wasn't just gimmicky. It was like a legit, band.
Yeah, there is a just a lot of talent on this album, and I mean, if you listen to it, I guess in a bubble, and it distance yourself from the fact that people said it was hair metal or this that. You look at it as an entity onto itself, and people just like, I like I said, I remember hooking somebody on to this within the last few years. I'm like, have you ever heard of a band called White Trash? White Trash is it? I'm like, it was this band, and of course I always said that this band would have been huge had they come out, and they're like, oh, and I let them listen to it. I said, just listen to it. Tell me what you think. And he's like, man, that's a good album. I'm like, yeah, I know. I was like, these guys had talent, and they're fun. And I was like, and that was when I realized, well, you guys been come back for a while at that point, but I didn't know that you had kind of come back at that point. But I found you on, like I said, found you on Facebook, and I was so happy.
Yeah.
That
we kept that secret.
Yeah. I was so happy to find out that White Trash was still like, together and putting out music and finding stuff on YouTube and I was like, man, damn, this is awesome. So this is good to see you guys still out there playing and having a good time.
Yeah. It's been like a wild ride. What essentially happened was, so after the first record, really nobody in the band wanted to stay in the band, except for me. And so Ethan left because Ethan's like an amazing guitar player. He's a really good guitar player. And he wanted to do something that was more like a kind of like a Badlands kind of album. He liked Jakey Lee. He wanted to do some just more like guitar god rock. And that's really what he was all about. So he wanted to do that. And then, Aaron and Mike wanted to go off and do something more in the vein of the Chili Peppers or something like that. And they're all about that. So, they went off and did another band. So then, I was there and they had kind of said, you can keep doing it, but we're out, So we got a new band, also guys from the neighborhood. Craig LeBlanc lived a few blocks away, Eric Broden lived in Bayside, which is a little out of our, comfort zone. And Dave was in Woodside, but still all Queens guys. And we had, like I said, we had the half-ass brass. And then, we continued with the second record, and we had an EP in between, which actually I'm trying to get that re-released right now. But, and so we did it all again, but with different guys. And that's always a tough sell, because any of us, if you have a band you like, you're attached to the guys in the band. So that was a really interesting journey, because we really were like starting all over again, building chemistry, the whole thing. And, that was a great experience. And, and the record came out great, but it came out like I said, it came out right like in the middle of grunge era, and it was just like, everybody was kind of like, it's a little too late for this, you know what I mean? So that was kind of a disappointing experience. We still toured it, we still got a video up, with Minor Happiness and stuff, and then at the end of that, I get disappointed, and I kind of was like, I'm going to retire. At 25, I was going to retire with, whatever money I had. I don't know. And luckily, John Stewart, who you mentioned earlier, the show that he originally had on MTV, he got picked up on Paramount. And there was some publishing dispute, and they couldn't use the crawl. So I wrote music for his new show, which turned out to be a really good payday, because it was syndicated. And if that show had lasted, you'd never see me again. I'd be living on an island somewhere. But so I made money, and I was like, that's it. I'm checking out. I literally moved to Florida to retire. And, you know, so there was a big gap and I bounced around and was in California. And when I came back, I, got together with the guys and we decided to put out new stuff. We did like reunion show and all this stuff. And then that kicked off like sort of the next, the next phase of the white trash thing, which kind of went all the way through, and then COVID kind of put the brakes on it. So, we're still doing stuff, but like, we'll see how that goes going forward.
Now, this is what I've always wondered about with bands, especially like I said, with as catchy as the first album was. Do you have like people that will like try to get like, hey man, I want this song for a movie, or is people still coming at you for trying to get it in films or TV or anything like that?
We didn't have a lot of that. Like I said, the Crawl was the one that wound up on the TV show, and then I did a different song for that. I've done, like, for a while I was working in film and video and stuff like that, and I've done music for films you'll never see. Nothing really that famous or anything. I think once or twice something came up, but it just never really materialized. But we'd certainly be open to that.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, I wrote a script for a movie years ago, and there was one character, and I wanted him when he pulled up in his car to be listening to the Poor White Trash, and just I thought that would have fit the character perfectly, and I was like, what if I should try to get a hold of him if I ever do make this movie?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit, so I missed some of that.
Okay, but, I had written a script. It was a like kind of a slight coming of age movie, but the guy rolled up in a car, right, and the car he's going to be playing Poor White Trash in like a Camaro, and I had that in my head when I wrote that scene. And I was
that's awesome.
Yeah. And I was like, that'd be fun.
Yeah, if you make it.
Yeah, I make it. I'll get a hold of you and I'll license. Try to get a license from you.
Oh yeah.
With White Trash and with the comeback and touring, I know a lot of people are having this issue because that the money is there just enough with touring to kick you down the road a little further. Is that an issue you're running into? Yeah.
It's always an issue touring because people don't understand. You don't really make money touring. Like when we were on Electra, in the contract you got tour support because they viewed it as promotion. They knew you're not going around in clubs to pay for vans or buses, hotel rooms. You got to eat. You got to pay a road crew. That all adds up really quick. You know what I'm saying? So you can make some money off merch and stuff like that. But in those days, they would actually give you money like to go on the road. Like so, we were getting like per diems to be on the road, but we weren't really making enough on the road to sustain for months at a time the way we were. Nowadays, the whole industry is different. The record company's not giving you anything. They're taking everything, right? Mm-hmm. Like nothing's free. Like a record contract now, they have these 360 deals. They want everything, So that sucks because like, honestly, I would never do a deal like that. But, so touring, you really have to look at it, right? And you got to do the math. Like, well, if we do this and then you have a day or two in between, like we're not making money that day, right? Like you got to book maybe some shithole somewhere just to get in there and get some money, right? And, everybody has seen some band they like in some dive, right? Where there's not that many people or something. And it's kind of like a depressing thing if you're a band. You don't want to play those kind of shows, but they happen, you know what I mean? And it's part of the economics. You got to, so, now guys go on the road, they have fans in each town that they can crash with, or they're sleeping in the van sometimes, because I don't think most of these guys got buses anymore. You know, that's expensive. You got to pay a driver, gas, what it is now. So, you know, it's like the fantasy of being the rock star that existed, you know, for me growing up in the 70s and 80s, that was a real thing that you could do. And we got to do that for a little while. It's much harder now, but the guys who are dedicated to it and really love it, and you can do it, you know, where there's a will, there's a way to do it. But gas is expensive. It's a real bitch, you know?
Oh yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I always wanted to see you guys live. Never got the chance personally. I live in the middle of bumfuck Ohio. So, I mean, I think the closest you ever came when I was younger was, I think you came to Cincinnati. I might be wrong there, but
yeah, we did someplace. I know we did Cincinnati. I know we did Cleveland. So I don't know where you are.
yeah, I'm if you put Cleveland and Cincinnati, I'm like right here.
Right. I got you.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna lie. I think fun rock was, and it should still be a thing. That just not, you know, partying and stuff like that. You know, people are like, oh, you guys are getting too old for this, but there's always time to have fun. And
I agree.
And I think with people, I got to this argument the other day because people are like, man, didn't you grow out of that? I'm like, why? Why would I grow out of that? I don't.
No, I hear you, because I mean, you know, you go to a show, you want to have fun.
Yeah.
Well, I think, yeah, people get older and they look. There's plenty of good, serious music, so you know nobody's saying not to do that. But yeah, the parties. I mean, I guess you know the reality is it is true in a way that you know. I saw Motley Crue 5 years ago, whatever it was, but they were touring with Poison or whatever, and you know they did a good show. But I was looking around. It was Nassau Coliseum out here, and I was looking around, and you're like, wow, the audience is so fucking old. And then you're like, I'm old. Like, we're all old. I'm not looking down on anybody. But I remember seeing Motley Crue at the same venue, Nassau Coliseum, when I was like 15. And I went with my Nikki Sixx lines on my face and spandex and hairspray. And I mean, that was insane. You know, I mean, hot girls everywhere. They were opening for Ozzy, you know, so the Bark at the Moon tour, you know. Going to shows in those days, man, that was like, now that I only go to shows now, like, if it's really someone like I really have a lot of respect for, or somebody I just never got to see, and I'm like, man, I'd like to see that guy. Because you go to shows, it's not that party atmosphere you're talking about. Like, you kind of would have to come with your own crew of guys, and everybody'd have to get liquored up way before, because you know. But it doesn't happen anymore. It's a different vibe. The rock and roll audience got much older, and you know, kids are not really. I mean, you know, I think a lot of kids do like rock music, but that's not their scene. That's not what they do. You know what I mean? Yep. So you don't have that youthful, you know, show where girls are lifting their shirts up and everything like that. The closest I saw is we did the Monsters of Rock cruise a few years ago, right before COVID hit, and that was a lot of fun. You know, that was a lot of fun. It was older folks, but you know, they were still doing it, and these people were committed to it, and they go on that cruise every year, and you know, they hit all these festivals, and their whole year, they know that they're going to all these shows, and they're going to have a lot of fun. Yeah. So I loved playing in front of those guys. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, you know, you go to your local venue, it's not a whole lot of fun anymore. I kind of avoid it.
We have one venue, and I still love going to see live shows. And it's funny because I tell people, I was like, I went and seen King Crimson, and then a few weeks later, like a couple weeks later,
I saw King. Yeah, I didn't know you were a Crimson guy. I'm a big King Crimson guy.
Oh yeah. Well, my I got to take my 22-year-old son, who's got big into King Crimson, and I was like, man, I used to listen to this and play D&D back in the 80s. I was like, this is my thing.
Right.
And then a few weeks later, I went and seen Bret Michaels at this bar here in Ohio, and never been there before. My wife had been there. It's called JD Legends, not paid nothing, and it's a fun venue. It reminds me of the late '80s where people were partying, early '90s.
Right.
It is an older crowd, so it's people my age up into their 50s and stuff, even in 60s. Literally tomorrow, I'm going to that place and I'm going to see Firehouse and Lita Ford. So
there you go. We had a place out here in Long Island. It was the Crazy Donkey, and then we had Revolution. Those places are gone. A lot of venues folded during COVID. So right now, I don't even know where you would see something like that by me. And but I know around the country there's a lot of places that are still keeping the dream alive. And LA is always kind of got pockets of that with the whiskey and stuff like that still going. But New York, there's not much of it. There's really nowhere to do that anymore. I guess in Jersey there's some places like Dingbats and stuff like that. Yeah. But
it's funny because what was it when CBGB's closed? It was like, really, that closed, huh? It doesn't seem like that'd be a thing that would happen.
I know. Well, the things with New York, I mean, New York's always going to be New York. New York's not going away. Like, you know what I mean? It's always going to be, to me, the greatest city in the world. You can, everybody can have their own favorite city, but it's so different, and all the places I used to go when I would go into the city, they're gone, So when I go in the city now, I'm almost like a little lost because I'm like, all right, well, you can't go record shopping, all the dive bar kind of places that I used to hang out are gone. Really, there are big music venues for big acts and stuff, but just kind of local music, it's not really a scene for that there anymore, So it's unfortunate, but times change. What can you do? I don't, like I said, I said earlier, I was kidding. I'm the old man yelling at a cloud, but I'm not. I sort of accept, like, hey, I'm old. Like, you start talking, and then you realize, like, somebody's like, "What's this old fucking guy talking about?" You're like, "Sorry, I'll show myself out."
That's literally my business. I own a comic book store. That's my regular daily job, and I'm sitting there because most of my clientele is either people my age or kids fresh out of high school or in high school. So I'm like trying to I'm explaining to them one time. They're like, "Why didn't you call somebody?" Well, like a car broke down. I'm like, "Well, we didn't have cell phones, so we had to walk 15 miles to a payphone."
Yeah. Well, I have a son who's 9, and I try to explain some of these things now, and it's like it just doesn't compute at all. Like, you didn't have an iPad, like, how did you watch TV in the bathroom? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's funny when you think back, but then there's trade-offs. Like when we were kids, you just go out of the house at some point and be like, "I'll see you later, Mom." And you could have gone anywhere, you could have found a dead body somewhere, whatever. I mean, and you just came back hours later. My kid, nowadays you don't let kids do that because we're more aware of the kind of sick people are, out there, unfortunately. So it's like they don't really have the same kind of club thing going on. It's like a lot of hanging out at people's houses and stuff like that. And but then on the flip side, right, all the technology, the cell phones and iPads and streaming and all that. I mean, it's hard to explain that, like, we didn't have any of that, And then you realize, I think I have the same conversation with my grandmother, like 40 years ago. You know what I mean?
Well, this is a compact disc. You can put.
Yeah, don't throw out that foil. We're gonna save it. Depression era.
Yeah. See, all of this fits on all of this.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, what music are you listening to now?
I'm always listening to different stuff. It's funny. that you said King Crimson, because I was just listening to them in the car. I'm a big Crimson fan, big Adrian Belew fan. I wish they were still working together, but I've seen them each separately. But I like, there's new music I like too. I don't know if you know Idols. I think they're really good. There's a cool band, Electric Moon. There's a lot of I like new music. I like all kinds of music. So I still listen sometimes to like older, stuff, whether it's Aerosmith or something like that. But to me, good music is good music. So whether it's jazz, blues, I like a lot of blues and R&B stuff. So I'm always searching for new stuff. You got any new recommendations? I'm always trying to find new music.
I rediscovered myself because I grew up, like I said, in the 80s, and I loved like the movie soundtracks of the 80s. So like the synthwave stuff, and I've just discovered all this new synthwave, and I'm like, man, this stuff's good. I don't know. Let's see. No, that's not it. Sorry. No. Well, that's.
You listen to Goblin?
Yes, I got. Hold on. Got the Phenomenon soundtrack by and what else I got? I got the
breaking up on me again.
Hold on a second. The Dawn of the Dead soundtrack, or Day of the Dead. The Dawn of the Dead. That Goblin did. I got Carpenter Brute. Have you ever heard of them?
No, I don't know them.
They they do their Leather Teeth. That was their album before.
Okay.
It's even made like it's a movie soundtrack. So it's a movie soundtrack to a movie that doesn't exist. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'll check that out.
I'm also I'm a huge fan of the band Clutch, so anything they put out, I jump on, and I listen to pretty much, like I said, everything too. I found some new, of all things, country, like Sturgill Simpson. I found him recently.
Yeah,
that stuff was great. Went back, found some old stuff that I'd forgotten about, and now I've just been, I don't know, trying to recollect some vinyl, some old stuff. Movie soundtracks. Because man, I hate to say this, but man, when I'm editing my shows, I put a movie soundtrack on, and I'm editing, and it just takes you away. You just kind of
yeah.
So. I got to ask though, are you, with coming back and stuff, are you going to be back on tour again soon?
Well, right now, to be honest, we don't have like 100% full band. Some guys have jumped ship to do other things. Everybody's cool. It's not like one of those terrible breakup kind of things, but a lot of guys have other stuff going on right now. So yeah, I mean, we actually had last year a lot of shows that I was starting to line up, and I was losing players left and right, so I had to kind of shut that down. But I am hopeful. I kind of owe some people some shows, so we're going to try to do that. Just trying to figure out everybody's schedule. And again, it's a tricky thing because, like I said before, not really a big fan of like, swapping out band members willy-nilly. I mean, a lot of people do it now because it's just the reality of it. People have health issues. People aren't playing music anymore. So I always try to get as much of the original gang back together as possible. So we're working on that. We got, I'm going to be releasing, I mentioned before, in between the first album and the second album, there was this EP that we put out. And the label, again, it was a weird time. They kind of put it out, but they just viewed it as promotional material. But we had some songs on that you can't get anywhere. So we're gonna put that out again, but with like a ton of demos and unreleased stuff, some covers and stuff. So that's gonna be like a cool release. I'm trying to get out by the end of the year, and then beyond that, we were working on a lot of new material. So we have like new material to put out too. So I'm trying to get everybody. It's always right now post COVID has been like a nightmare for me to get anything done with these guys because not because not blaming it on them. I just mean conflicting schedules and all that. So there's a lot of stuff. I'm kind of going retro mode, and I know people love the good old days. So I'm like, why don't we try to re-release some of that stuff and get it out there? And we on the second band, when we were trying to reestablish the band, like we recorded a lot of stuff, I realized. And I had COVID like a month ago, and I was going through tapes and stuff, and I was like, oh, we got to put this on. We got to get some of this stuff out. So I got a lot of stuff that we're going to put out that if you're a fan of the old stuff, it'll be cool. I think there's even some live stuff maybe that we could throw in there. And then we're going to see who I can pull in. It's like the Blues Brothers. It's like when we did Monsters of Rock, it was like insane because I was so psyched. I was like, this is going to be so cool. We'll go on the boat. And everybody's like, nah, I don't know if I want to do it. I'm like, what? Like, what? And then I started contacting other players. Like, I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't know if you want to do it. So, but then I was like, you know what? I got to do it. Blues Brothers was the basis of the band, the movie. Like, I'm going to live the movie, right? So we got to get the band back together. I'm on a mission. I mean, Ethan has passed away, and so unfortunately we couldn't get him, obviously. But the second guitar player, Craig, was there. We had the entire original horn section. We couldn't get Mike because Mike has a business, and it was just hard for him to get away. And so we had this. It was like a mix of the first two bands and the original horn section, and it was great. It was great, and everybody was all together. And then, we had COVID, and we were all together in spirit, texting and whatever. The minute everything opened up, see ya. And again, I don't mean it like anybody's a dick or anything. I mean, just it's very hard to get anybody on the phone right now. So I'm doing what I can do to keep the dream alive. So I'll do whatever I got to do to keep the dream alive. But I would think I'm going to be able to get some people back in the mix. And it's same old with White Trash. Like we might deviate a little bit, but it's always the same formula, and it's always about having fun and being different and breaking the rules or whatever.
Cool. Oh, and I appreciate the hell out of you coming on here. I do. Like I said, White Trash. I love this band. I greatly appreciate this.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
And like I said, I've even got the cassette. So if you put out a vinyl, I have to get that too, so I can put it in my collection, and I can have the vinyl, the CD, and the cassette. So,
yeah, no, we were actually thinking about that because there was a limited run of vinyl on the first record.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the first album on vinyl, which was cool because then vinyl was done. But in Europe, they were still pressing vinyl, so we have some vinyl. But a lot of people were seeking that record. So that was one of the ideas I had, is like to re-release the first two albums on vinyl. You know what I mean? Because I still use CDs, honestly. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to put an album out exclusively on vinyl and cassette. No, you can't download it. Sorry, you got to buy the physical media. But we'll see. It takes so long to actually press vinyl, and it's so expensive right now. And anybody who's pressing vinyl, there's like a 6-month delay on all that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to do that right now, but that's something we got our eye on. Like double live trash. 7/7. Well, like a cool 70s album that opens up. Yeah.
I can tell you, I ordered this one because it's Trick or Treat, the soundtrack on vinyl. And I got it in June of this year. I ordered because they were that
Yeah.
far behind on pressing.
Yeah, it's crazy because you would think that there's got to be a way to do that quicker, but
Well,
I guess I don't really know why it takes so long, but it does.
I watched the thing and they were showing them doing it, and it's literally like the new stuff, since it's so low print run, it's one at a time. It's like,
Yeah,
I watched them doing it. This one woman's running this machine, and you put the stickers on this little pile and it squeezes it out, and then they come over and they trim the stuff off the edge and it kicks it on down the road. And I'm like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's crazy. So
It is crazy. You would think somebody like disc makers or somebody would get some old equipment or something, but vinyl is cool as hell. I always like cassettes. Cassettes are cheap and easy to make, but very few people have cassette players. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But just on principle, I'd like to make them on 8-track. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go way back. Let's release it on singles on 78s. You know what I'm saying? But you got to get real, and
Hey, I got reel to reel.
It takes a lot of money to do all that.
Yeah, I've still got a reel to reel player. So
there you go.
Yeah,
that was another one. You do a mix on a reel to reel tape, and then it clicks and plays backwards, right?
Yep.
The other side.
Oh man, but like I said, I appreciate this. This is cool for me. Like I said, I have been a fan since 1991, and I'm, I'll be a fan till the day I die, because I love that album. I mean, it's it was.
Thank you. It means a lot. It really does, because when you make something like that all those years ago, you have no way of knowing that it's still going to exist all these years later. And like, for me, there was roughly 10 years of my life where I had nothing to do with music or white trash or anything. And I never thought it would ever come up again. It was just like, yeah, that was something I did a long time ago. And getting back into it and finding and talking to people like yourself and finding that there's people all around the planet that have the original album, and some people discovering that, oh wow, they have other songs and other albums and stuff. It's great. So I love it. So I'm dedicated. I'll be here 24/7 trying to keep it alive because it means a lot to me, and it really means a lot to me. What you said, it really does make my day.
Oh, I like I said, I want to thank you. This has been, one of the ones where there's a few people that I've wanted to interview, and you were one of them. And the fact is, I hate to say this, I found you on Facebook. We've chatted here and there over the years, and I appreciate the fact that you reach out and that you talk to people, and it's fun. It's nice to know that somebody that I love this album, that you still are appreciative of the people who still love the albums, and it does.
Absolutely.
So I thank you.
Hey, we're all part of the White Trash Universe. WhiteTrashUniverse.com, the website. You can listen to all our music is on there for free to listen to. And it hasn't been an update in a while because we haven't done much, but there's stuff coming. Like I said, old stuff, new stuff, and hopefully we'll get on the road again and, bang everybody's mom again. Not really. I'm married and I have a son. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it's having kids, man, is a crazy thing, and getting older. I have people look at me and they're like, "Man, you still party?" I'm like, "Nah, man. I'm married, got 4 kids. I don't know."
Yeah, no, that's the whole other thing. I mean, honestly, having a kid is the greatest thing. You know what I mean? You make an album, that's like giving birth, and you customize it and whatever. But when a real person comes into the world and looks at you for guidance, that's the most important thing there is.
Oh yeah. Is your kid got you trying to get your kid into music or?
Yeah, he has a band, the Howling Dogs, and he's influenced by Queen. Queen is his favorite band, not White Trash. But he's come up on stage with the past few shows I've done. You know, he comes and I make sure to get him up on stage so he can feel that rush on stage, and you know, just have him do some backup vocals or jump around. You know, because it's a party, and you know, there's no party like that. Like getting up on stage, feeling it. You know, good or bad, it's a great experience. So I'm glad I got to share that with him a few times.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, sir, I'm not going to tie you up too much longer, and I think the storm's finally coming into my area, so my internet is not doing well.
All right.
But I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Like I said, it means
thank you.
And just let me know, and I'll keep watching your Facebook because I'm waiting for this on vinyl. And
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of past year haven't been on Facebook as much as I usually was, but I'm making the effort to get back on there because, like I said, there's a few things buzzing. So I'm gonna, you know, just anytime anybody reaches out, I get a message. You know, even if I'm not digging Facebook at the moment, that's the only reason I'm not on there. Sometimes the politics and all the negativity. Yeah, I don't have room for that in my life, but I'm there, and if you message me, you'll hear back from me.
Cool.
And I'll get the news out as soon as I have it.
Sweet. Like I said, I appreciate it, and thank you so very much, sir, for being on here. And I will. I'm probably going to listen to this now while I finish up editing my other shows. So,
all right, good man. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care, man. White Trash. See ya.